And this is a message for all you EgyptoManiacs, Hotep Wackos. You know, y'all really are all over online, talking nonsense. You cursing out people that are actually from Egypt. You got the Israelites telling people they ain't the real Jews. And y'all, none of y'all know what the hell y'all talking about. How you gonna tell a people like an Egyptian from a whole country of millions of people that's your land and that they're imposters? You know how preposterous and ridiculous that is? I lived in Egypt a whole year and a half. Nobody in Egypt looks like me. I stuck out like a sore thumb. The only people you might see black in Egypt is in places like Aswan, and you know what you come to find out? That they're Nubians. They've been Nubians for thousands of years. And then y'all going over the Egyptian post. You ain't an Egyptian. You never even been to Egypt. Another thing is, get a map, okay? The transatlantic slave trade took place in West and Central Africa. Egypt is all the way in Northeast Africa. The Atlantic Ocean is nowhere near Egypt. The Atlantic slave trade didn't take place in Egypt, man. It took place in West and Central Africa. And none of you Egyptomaniacs and none of your pseudo scholars ever teach you anything about West and Central Africa. Because what does that show? It really shows self-hate. All of this black pride and stuff, you'll find a lot of these people, they have a problem with West and Central Africa. They don't want nothing to do with it. That's why they jumped all the way to Egypt on the whole other side of the damn continent. Africa is a continent. It's not one little country, okay? Africa's a continent, like Asia is a continent, okay? Just because everybody in Asia isn't Chinese, okay? Just say a Hindu is the same race and people as a damn Japanese or a Chinese person. They're both Asian. Really, man, this stuff is really immature, childish. You want to live in this fantasy world that suits your ego and your emotions. It's time for us to grow up, man. A lot of y'all don't like somebody who really states empirical data and empirical facts. Y'all like people rapping. Y'all like people telling you queens and kings and you so great and you so beautiful, because you're really operating on an emotional, childlike way of thinking. You're not Egyptian. When I was in Alexandria, there's the Bahr al-Agami is right there, the Aegean Sea. Right across that sea is Turkey, Greece, and all of those places. Okay? And this is the thing. Right next door is Libya. Right over there is Turkey. Right to the north, you got Sinai with the Arabs and stuff like that. Nobody in that whole area is black. And then you claiming Egypt is black, smack dab, and all of that. Nobody over there is black. And never was. Even if you look on the temples, they have depictions of the Hyksos. They have depictions of the Libyans. And those are their neighbors, and they look the same as they do. Libyans always been Libyans. Berbers, Amazigh people in Morocco. They always they didn't become what they look like after the advent of Islam. The Coptic people are still there in Egypt. Those same ethnic groups have been there for thousands of years. They weren't somehow black and then turn white. That's BS. People don't mix like that in other countries. You know, just like West Africa was colonized, is everybody in West Africa black? I mean, is everybody in West Africa white now? There's still the same tribes that were there even when they colonized it. Come on, man. This stuff is silly. You walking around with these big old ankhs and calling yourself Sarnetta or Haru and all this other stuff, and that stuff has no relation to you. A transatlantic slave trade took place in Western Central Africa. We have all of those empires in West Africa and Western Central Africa. Benin, you got, Mansa Musa, Sunni Ali, you know what I mean? All of these historical figures, a lot of you Negroes know nothing about, because people are infatuated with Egypt. That has nothing to do with that. Like, come on, man. You want to escape into a fantasy world about a past that was never there. You never were Egypt. You were never Egyptians. Even if Egyptians were black, you're not from that part of Africa. That's way on the other part of the continent, which none of our people came from. The real problem is you have a problem with sub-Saharan Africa. That's what the real issue is. You're really ashamed of it. That's why you want to go and hijack Egyptians' culture when there's millions of people there, and you're going to say it's really yours. You know how ridiculous that is? You know how bad that makes us look? How silly it makes us look? You know, a lot of your people would never go like where I went in West Africa, you know, to Goree Island, to, Ghana and all that, because they're really ashamed of when you go to a place where people look like you, you're really ashamed of who you really are. Ain't nobody in Egypt black. I was in Egypt and I stuck out like a sore thumb. Then they asked, where the heck are you from? Every day. How the heck we from a place where there ain't nobody there look like us? And them people been there, man. You need to deal with empirical evidence and data. DNA says the population. I went to the temples on the walls. Nothing on the wall looked like me. I'm sorry. I don't know how people go to Egypt and see all of those hieroglyphs and stuff like that and think that they're black. Nah, they don't look like black people on them damn hieroglyphs. I'm sorry. I photoshopping stuff. I've been to Luxor, I've been to Aswan, and I've been through Giza. The ancient Egyptians are the same as the modern Egyptians. Use common sense and listen to people who educate instead of these crazy Hotep dudes that, keep mentioning the same scholars over and over, the same pseudo scholars with bad information. It's time to we need to take care of our issues here, be proud of being black Americans, and get out of this damn fantasies about Egypt, and y'all even claiming to be Native Americans now, y'all claim to be Greeks. It's just ridiculous, man. And why? Why do you have to claim to be all of these things? Why do you have to be a Greek? Why do you have to be a deal? Eskimos, right? They cool with being who they are, and basically all they did was survive and live in igloos and shit. Why do you have to be ancient? They don't have to claim to be ancient Egyptians and samurais and everything else. Be yourself and accept who you are. It's self-hate when you don't accept your own, accept who you are. Atlantic trade, slave trade didn't take place in Egypt, man. Get a map, look at some geography. The Atlantic Ocean is nowhere near Egypt. Learn something about geography. Learn something about terrain, okay? See, to the south, right, where I told you I seen Nubians, where I saw some black people, they were Nubians, and they come from Sudan originally, okay? The Arabic, the word Sudan comes from the word black. The Arabs used to call Sudan, like all of those countries in the south, Bilad of Sudan. That means the lands of the blacks. That's how we know Egypt isn't black. Because they never called Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco. They never called any of those countries the lands of the blacks. Y'all need to do some basic geography, okay? And stop listening to the same people. Get out of your emotions. Try to be about truth. Try to be about facts. You know, they rapping. What you want. This is the Merchant Traveler. I encourage all my people to travel, get a passport, learn something about the world. And, you know, even when I traveled, I realized a lot of people see Americans as being very ignorant. And particularly a lot of us black men and black Americans, we don't really travel like that. What's going on, man? Become butchered. This is the Merchant Traveler, man. This is my message, my first video. Like, subscribe, comment, holla at me.